Johannesburg, thousands of schoolchildren took to the streets to demonstrate against the arrest of 5 teenagers.
It was the children that started the rioting, lining the main roads through Soweto and stoning every vehicle that passed. The delivery vans were looted. What had started as a political protest broke out into general lawlessness. Tens of thousands of black children boycotted classes today and started hijacking vehicles, threatening to kill blacks and whites alike.
They took their car from me. Who took the car? The small boys did. But why are you running away? Well, I must run away because you killed me.
Until now, this giant township has stayed relatively quiet. The authorities brought in cavalry to try and stamp out the rioting before it took hold. They'd been training to deal with crowds like this for weeks, kept in readiness on Soweto's outskirts, and today ordered in to charge down a gathering demonstration. The authorities hoped in this way to crush the trouble early, but it merely spread deeper into the township. Police sent tear smoke machines to stop a planned protest meeting at Regina Mundi Cathedral. The army presence built up on streets that began to look like battlegrounds. Opposition leaders here threatened to make the black townships ungovernable. Many are already no-go areas for the authorities unless they move armed and in force. The army and police took to driving at random down Soweto's streets looking for trouble. Rubber bullets, tear gas and bird shot fired at any group of children that was around and looked like making trouble. It became a cat and mouse affair that lasted for most of the day. Parents washed tear smoke from their children's eyes. There were worse casualties, 3 dead, a dozen badly injured. As evening approached, the violence got worse.
You people, let's get out now very quickly, okay?
For a time today, Soweto, biggest, most threatening of all the townships, was out of control.
Police and troops moved swiftly into several black townships during the night to make their first mass arrests. They came in force here to Kwatema, but throughout the day there have been few visible signs of increased security force activity. During the last state of emergency in 1960, 11,000 blacks were detained over a period of 5 months. In Soweto today, largest of all the black townships, no repetition of the rioting which finally led the government to such a drastic response. Certainly there's no right of appeal against any action taken by a soldier or policeman under the emergency. It's already unlawful for me to tell you the names of anybody detained under the emergency legislation. Journalists can be ordered out of any area and instructed to withhold information. Called the deployment a show of force. The armoured personnel carriers drove slowly through several of the areas worst affected by the past 4 days of violence. The display of strength was intended to deter blacks from further looting and burning, also to reassure the Indian community, who've complained that the authorities had done little to defend them. Even before the convoy appeared on the streets this morning, the townships were much quieter, and the situation has remained relatively peaceful. South Africa's foreign minister today increased speculation that the imprisoned black leader Nelson Mandela may soon be set free.
I think there are members of the South African government who believe that he has been in jail for many years and ought to be set free. The question now is how, and it is a pity that we have the impression that he is in effect joining himself at present.
The house in Soweto, where Mandela lived before his arrest in the early 1960s, still stands ready for him, with photographs of him on display. Calls for Mandela's release have been mounting, both from opposition groups in South Africa and from the international community. A majority of blacks regard Mandela as their sole authentic leader, the man who should be allowed to negotiate with the government over demands for black majority rule. Killing, burning and looting has seriously damaged their attempts at united opposition by Indians and blacks. Even as the coffin was being carried to the cemetery, a police vehicle was being attacked by a section of the crowd. black police driver rammed one of his attackers against the side of a bus. Another of the black policemen fled, and later he could be seen in flames, where he'd been caught and killed by the mob.